Yashacha Kuma is a chartered accountant and the technical director at the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ, with expertise in professional accountancy education, standard setting, and regulation. She has extensive experience engaging with regional and international professional accountancy organizations and regulators, including active participation in technical and best practice groups under PAFA and AFAC. Nyasha plays a pivotal role in the professionalization of the public sector in Zimbabwe and across Africa, contributing to capacity building and standards setting. Her work has extended to representing Zimbabwe in high-level regional forums, including on the SADC Free Trade Agreement, particularly in areas related to accountancy education and professional mobility. She is passionate about strengthening the accounting profession through collaboration, thought leadership, and the development of future-ready professionals. Tendai is a partner at Deloitte LLP in London, UK. He leads investment management and private equity governance, risk and regulatory assurance services. Tendai started his career with Deloitte in Zimbabwe and worked in the US, before settling in the UK, almost 20 years ago. He also spent close to a decade in the UK financial services industry, focusing on private equity and investment management, before returning to Deloitte. Outside his professional role, Tendai invests in future generations through mentoring and coaching. He also works with charities that provide poverty alleviation, financial education, economic empowerment and leadership development programs to young people. Tendai sits on the board of the Together Initiative, a UK charity whose mission is to bring people together and bridge divides. Tendai is a qualified accountant and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, ICAZ, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zimbabwe, ICAZ. Tendai and his wife, Grace, live in Kent with their 3 daughters. Lukas is a chartered accountant and chartered financial analyst with over 25 years of strategic finance experience gained in the financial services sector across developed and emerging markets. Lukas is currently a director in the HSBC Group Finance team and has held various leadership roles within core finance, business partnering and treasury functions. He has gained significant experience of leading high-performing and multicultural teams across different geographies and navigating the complexities of large groups with matrix structures. His most recent experience includes being country CFO Mauritius and the group finance lead in executing M&A transactions and other strategic initiatives. Prior to working for HSBC, Lukas worked for Societe Generale, and he started his career with PwC in Harare before transferring to the Channel Islands, Jersey, and London offices. Lukas is a board and audit committee member of the Working's Men College, an adult education institute based in Camden, London that provides diverse and enriching lifelong learning, including skills for work, in a supportive environment for adults. He is also an independent member of the Investment Committee of Fair for ALL Finance, an organisation that has the responsibility of disbursing over £200 million of government funding to increase the financial resilience and well-being of people in vulnerable circumstances across the UK. Shava is a chartered accountant registered in both Zimbabwe and Namibia. He currently serves as the regional head of finance for Labelspread Zimbabwe. He has extensive experience in mining, fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG, and auditing. He has also worked internationally in the United States and regionally in Namibia, and he has personal experience relocating back to Zimbabwe after a long time abroad.
With over 20 years of experience as a healthcare leader, executive coach, and educator, Tina helps leaders unlock their potential and thrive through pivotal transitions. She partners with C-suite executives, senior leaders, and rising talent to strengthen executive presence, sharpen strategic decision-making, and build high-performing teams. Known for equipping leaders to navigate complexity with clarity and resilience, she is passionate about driving purposeful impact and sustainable success. Tifadzwe is a partner at EY with 17 years of experience driving impact across leadership, strategy, and transformation. Over her career, she has progressed through roles from assistant manager to senior manager and now associate partner, bringing deep expertise in guiding organizations through complex challenges and leading with influence at the highest levels.
All right, thank you, AI, for introducing my panelists and myself. Good morning, everyone, once again. Welcome, I would say welcome to my panelists and welcome to you to this panel. So we'll have our first question on Slido, and it is to ask you, our attendees, what is the biggest challenge that you've had in adapting in the workplace? What exactly has it been? Has it been workplace culture, confidence, networking, or has it been the expectations? Okay, workplace culture. I can relate. I've been here for about a week, and I have just realized that, I had an A in O-level English, but I'm realizing that my A was for before the oceans. That's where my that's where my A relates. So we had a conversation. I was part of the advanced team, and we asked, so will there be water in the conference rooms? They said, yes, there'll be plenty of water. I can't mimic. And we're happy, only to come yesterday and we're like, where's the water? But there are fountains everywhere. So I can just imagine. All right, we'll go ahead and start. So I'll start with Lukas. Lukas, you've been around the world, you've gone to places. How has this, can you tell us about your experience? How has it been, the cultural differences, adapting? Can you just give us a brief, how have you managed to remain agile? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Nyasha, and good morning, everyone. I agree with you. I think I've moved around, but I would say I had a lot of challenges. To your point, you're finding it very interesting here in terms of the language and stuff. But think about it, navigating these organizations. As you said in my intro, I've worked for only 3 organizations, blue chip organizations, PwC, Society Generale, and HSBC. And it has been very, very challenging. But I think what I found is I would attribute to some of my success stories. By the way, there are a lot of failures, which I would also want to talk about, to being myself. For instance, I've been in environments where people prefer calling me British, but I'm very firm on that. I want to be known as a Zimbabwean, because that would sort of like, I'm myself when I'm Zimbabwean. And so that's very important. Be yourself in new environments, learn the culture, understand people in those environments, who are the informal influencers, who are the go-to people when it comes to culture. That's very, very important, because I think it's at times we are too eager to go out there and prove ourselves before we know our surroundings. So for me, I think I would attribute some of my success stories to just understanding people. And I think the gift we forget as Zimbabweans, I think we're very humble people. So it's actually an intangible asset to us, in my view. So use that intangible asset wisely. And I would say, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Lukas. Tendai, the intangible asset, the Zimbabwean intangible asset, has that come in handy for you as you've been trying to remain agile as you've moved around the world?
Thanks, and good morning to everyone. So, it's actually an exciting thing that he mentions it as an intangible asset. There are times when it has not worked for me. The intangible asset, because there are perceptions. When you turn up in rooms, when you are sitting with people, how you interact, how you come across. And there are times I know when people have missed promotions because somebody says they're just so quiet. When we are in rooms, when we turn up, they don't say anything. And I have a colleague who shared a heartbreaking story where they went to a meeting with a UK partner for a UK client. And when they were in the meeting, he knew everything that they were doing, and the partner wasn't sure. Sometimes that happens, actually, of everything that was happening at the client. But then when the questions were asked, the partner was struggling to answer, some of the questions, and he just kept quiet. So when they left the room, the partner asked why he wasn't talking, why he was not chipping in and saying what he knew. And what he had been used to in his previous culture was that if he was going to be talking in a board meeting or an audit committee meeting, they would have agreed that upfront with the partner. And the partner would have told them exactly where they would come in and what they would say. And they had not been told that, so they were just quiet in the meeting. So I would subscribe more to the reading of the environment, like Lukas has said, to know how things work, what the expectations are, and if you're not sure, make sure you set the expectations right from the beginning, and then you step in. Because adapting is really not, I don't want to be controversial here. Adapting is not just being yourself. If you stay yourself, sometimes it doesn't serve you well, but it's understanding what is required in the situation. My last example, which I'll give, is I've got 3 daughters, 3 girls, very different, all of them. And if I, as a parent, just use one way, if there are people that have got kids here, you will know that. My eldest, if we told her to go into a naughty corner after she had done something terrible, that was like a capital punishment. She would really cry, she would be upset. And then we thought, now we know how to parent. Our second one came, and when she did something naughty, we put her in a naughty corner. We would have to call her back. She would completely forget the reason why she was there. And that she had been put in a naughty corner, she would actually completely forget. You would have to call her back to say, can you please come? Because she would have been distracted and she would have seen an aunt or something else, and she's just engrossed in that. So what I'm trying to say is, understand the situation, understand what is required, set the expectations, and adapt, and do the things that are required within the situation. That's what I would say.
Thanks, Tendai. Thank you. Very interesting. Ben, popularly known as Mdara Ben, Matters Affecting CAs. He's my newly appointed boss yesterday, so today I am in charge. I will poke you a bit. I think he would relate to your second daughter, Mdara Ben, being very vocal, speaking a lot. Has that been helpful to you as you've tried to navigate? You've been in Zimbabwe, gone to Namibia, gone to the States, come back to Zimbabwe to lead one of the popular bread companies in Zimbabwe. Has being vocal been the key ingredient? What exactly has it been?
Okay, thank you very much, Nyasha. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You are.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, being vocal, okay, like Tendai said, at times it works, at times it doesn't work. Because I know one thing when I moved to Florida in the USA, and being a vocal person, my mouth would be shut right from the morning until 5 p.m. But I had a colleague who was seated next to me, and if he wants something, he would just send an email. I wasn't used to that. And I think it's one of the biggest factors that actually pushed me away. There was cultural shock. I couldn't adapt. Yeah, and I think one of the things that actually made it worse was there was a Zimbabwean that I used to work with, and she got fired. Wow. Why were you fired? She didn't even know why she was fired. And I think Florida is a policy that says you can actually be fired for no apparent reason. Yeah, search that. So myself, I had actually moved with my family. I've got 3 kids and my wife. We'd actually moved together to the United States. And after such happened, I started thinking, I could be the next one here. And so what I did, I was in constant networking with my my buddies back in Zimbabwe. There was this guy, he was my client, and we kept on talking. And he came right at the right time. You know, he asked me, do you want a job? I said, yeah, I do. And then he sends me an offer. The offer was actually more than what I was getting. And I was like, you know what? I just told my family, we're going back. You know, we actually moved during COVID, in the middle of COVID. And the wife was like, what's happening? You know, and I just want to confess, you know, I was selfish. But it worked out well for us. It helped us to settle back home. So one of my advices to those who are thinking of going back home,
Ben, I didn't ask you to advise people.
So, yeah, you know, I need to share this. Really. So going back to Zimbabwe, you know, you don't just go back to Zimbabwe. You know, I think those who are in Zimbabwe have that experience. For me, it was this job. I had a safe landing. And I've seen some guys coming back, trying to look for a job while they're in Zimbabwe. It's tough. It's very tough. If you're not in the circle, it's kind of, I think employers don't trust those who are coming from the diaspora. I don't know what it is. Yeah, but my advice, if you want to go back home, look for a job while you're still here. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for that, Mdarabe. These are our new council members. Before I go forward, Tendai, I would like to ask you. You have been out of Zimbabwe for a long time. And I know that you've tried to maintain your roots in terms of connections or links between Zimbabwe and every other place that you've been. How have you managed to do that? Because I am now in Europe. It's been a week. I mean, people in Africa keep asking me how I am. So how have you managed to do it?
I didn't expect this to be a stand-up, but I think it's you know, I was chatting to Bryce earlier on, and I said these environments, and I can speak for myself, like the UK, can suck you in. You know, you can actually be on a treadmill where it's work, you go home, and it takes long to get home, and then you're tired, and you wake up the next day, and you go to work. It's a system. And I think the system can suck you in, and you can actually not lift your head to just see what's happening elsewhere. So the first thing that I would say is you have to be very intentional about what you do. Decide how you actually want to lead your life. And for me, it's purpose in terms of the connection. You know, the more I've been out of Zimbabwe, and it's, you know, I'll take Dara Ben's advice, but the more I've been out of Zimbabwe, the more I have seen the difference that I can make in Zimbabwe. I don't know whether that makes sense. But I grew up in a village setting. I grew up in an environment where I was not even a city person. And I still go back to my village. You know, 2 weeks ago I was in Zimbabwe with all my family, with all my kids. They know the school that I went to for primary school. You know, they know what it looks like. And I just think a perspective, you know, I don't want to lose perspective. When I sit next to my colleagues in the office, you know, some of my fellow partners maybe were, you know, educated at Eton and everything else, you can easily forget where you come from. And you can easily begin to think you are like one of them. I'm saying it. I'm saying it in a very positive way. Hopefully, there is nothing wrong with drive, but there is something powerful about perspective. When I land in Zimbabwe, I know, you know, it's been more than 20 years since I left. But when I land, I'm telling you this, I just feel as Zimbabwean as you feel, if you have been there forever, because of something that is just about me coming from Zimbabwe. So But I also realize how quickly things move. I saw Manyara earlier on, and I was telling Graham, and I was saying, the last time I saw Manyara was in class at UZ, almost 30 years ago now.
Now we
And
know
I
how
saw
old
her
she
today. I
is.
haven't even said hello, but you can easily lose touch, with what's happening on the ground. So one of the things that I always try to do is to stay connected. I said I last saw you about 30 years ago, but we've got a group that has got more than half of the class that I had then at UZ with people in Zimbabwe, and we still talk. And I see that I can contribute, but I can also learn what is actually happening on the ground. So I would say the main thing, be very intentional. And then the second thing, it takes effort. Be prepared to pay the price. That's what I would say.
Thanks, Tendai. And thank you for letting me know that Manyara is actually older than 35. I was not sure. I mean, I always thought she was like 35. That's what I always thought. But all good. So Tafadzwa, I'll come to you. You came here in your early 20s, and you've been here. I will not be like Tendai, I will not say a lot about the age, but you've been here for a while, and you have risen through the ranks. How has that been? What have you been doing that has allowed you to come into a different environment and thrive in that environment?
I think, you can hear me. So I think it's a good question, because I think a lot of people from Zimbabwe, we struggle a little bit with adjusting to the UK. Because I came first from Zimbabwe, went to Jersey, which is a really small island, 9x5. I don't know, I think you were in the Channel Islands. Yeah, it's very small. So I think the first thing I think is really, as others have said, it's about learning the new culture and the expectations. Because I came and I was like, okay, I just need to do my work hard. You're, in your little corner, you're working till midnight, you're quiet in meetings, and, you don't really speak for yourself. So I think the first thing I had to learn is to actually speak for myself of the work that I've done, because nobody will notice, because it's also a big environment. So I think the first thing was about actually speaking for myself and saying, what do I want to do? So, and the second thing I think that then helped me was then growing my network. Because I think the baseline of knowing your job, we all know our jobs, we're all chartered accountants. And I think sometimes we think the more we regurgitate standards is what's going to get us ahead, but not really. I feel like what's helped me the most was my network and being able to speak for myself, and the branding that was being talked about earlier. So a good example is like when I wanted to move from Jersey to the UK, I spoke to a partner at a dinner, and he was like, oh, if you ever want to move, you can just let me know. And then I took him up on that offer. He connected me to a partner in the UK. And before I knew it, I was able to actually move across to the UK, got an interviewed by a Zimbabwean who brought me across to the UK. And then from there, I think part of the process was then I was moving from manager all the way up to trying to move through the ranks to senior manager and so forth. And one of the things that happened that helped me was one of my partners took an interest in me and he started mentoring me. And from there, he also helped me to get opportunities on bigger accounts. And through that, I think I was able to step outside of my comfort zone, which is the other thing, is stop being safe. Because sometimes the things where you take a risk, that's where you really grow. Because I got an opportunity to get on a really big account that we had. I'd avoided it because I was like, I don't want to do first year audits. It's all very difficult. And then he sought me out and I went and did that role. But that role connected me with so many partners and they got to talk to me and see what I brought to the table. And then that's how I grew my network. And with my mentor was supporting me as well on that, I was able to do that confidently to actually be able to be like, okay, let me take this role and move on. And I think that's been the stepping stone for me to get to partner, because once you then get access to these people, you realize, oh, but I can become a partner. I can do this because I interact with these people all the time and they're just no different to us. But I think what it is because I've then spoken to a lot of people as but I'm struggling to get promoted. But it's because we shrink and we don't connect with people at work. We almost I do my job and that's it. I don't try and connect with people and speak about what I want and vocalize. Because one of the things I think is because I feel like we could all have made partner much earlier probably, but I think it took a while for me to be able to be confident to say, I want to be a partner. What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? Can you connect me to those people? And then once I started being vocal about that's what I wanted to do, then I had so much support. Because then all those people I was working with were like, oh yeah, but you're a good person. We've worked with you. I can trust you. So you build that trust in that relationship through that network. And so through that, I was able to connect to so many people and moving from associate partner and now I'm an equity partner because I've had that support over the years. Because now the key thing is really, if I have a problem, it's not about having all the answers. I can pick up the phone and I know I can call someone and be like, this is what, can you help me with something? I've got something urgent. How do you help me? So I guess the key things, like I said, were build a network, be bold to take new opportunities, do something different, shake things up. Just don't, be complacent, but also learn what the culture is and adapt. But I think don't lose yourself, because I think one of the things that's helped me to be successful, as Tendai has said, is I'm still my Zimbabwean self. So I bring something different, and that is my unique selling point. That's what they want, because I bring that perspective that's different from the Eton people, from all those other people. So I think find that balance of being yourself, but also being able to adapt.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tafadzwa. Very, very profound. Tinajo, you're not an accountant. Yeah, she's not an accountant. But you also moved. You have experienced what it's like being in new environments. You have risen through navigated through the ranks within the medical environment. Can you give us what it's like outside accounting? Can you share with us outside accounting? Did you also face what my fellows here faced? Were they too quiet? What did you do? What was your experience?
I'll be honest. It wasn't easy. It was really difficult, and I have been in healthcare close to 20 years now, and I really struggled at first. But the reason I struggled was I had the qualifications. I passed my course with flying colours. But then when it came to the job, for some reason, it seemed that other people were being promoted ahead of me. So I'd been in a job for many years, had the experience, had the certificate to show for it, but I just wasn't getting promoted. So what I then did, I took myself onto courses. I invested in myself because there wasn't enough in the budget for all of us to be trained or to go for courses. So I had to self-fund. So that's what I did. And then obviously it's taken up to 20 years now, but and I've got to a point where I feel that I'm still going ahead. There's still a lot more that I could do. But if I had somebody to coach me, or if I had somebody to show me the ropes, I think it wouldn't have taken me this long to get to this point. So I would just encourage people to take ownership of your own destination, of your own destiny. If you want to end up a partner like my colleague has done, I think sometimes you have to put it in your own hands and take ownership and be responsible for where you're going, because nobody else will do it for you. The organization, like the one that I work for, they have their own agendas where they're going, but when it comes to you as a person, you're somewhere down there. So they won't do the courses for you. They won't find the right mentors or the right coaches to get you to your destination. So in a nutshell, it wasn't easy. And I'll just give you my personal experience. So I've ended up as a nurse educator. I'm a nurse by background, and I have over more recently, I've specialized in cardiac nursing, and I'm a lecturer at London South Bank University, and I also teach within the hospital. So what happens with how I've ended up in executive coaching is that I had a lot of colleagues that were transferred to the education department. Tina, can you work with this person? Tina, can you work with that person? And a lot of times it's towards the end, and these people are now on performance management because they're not performing up to standard. And what happens is a lot of these people, they are people from Zimbabwe, they're people from Nigeria, these are people from ethnic background, ethnic minorities, if you like. So I was asking myself, what is the missing piece? What is the missing link? What are we missing as Black and ethnic minorities as we come into this country and we try to adapt and to adjust? And this is what has got me into executive coaching, to meet people. What are the internal struggles that we have? What is it that, apart from your certificate and your qualification, what softer skills do you need to connect with other colleagues that are in your team or in your department? How can you have impact? Say, for example, you become a leader, but how can you impact another person who is from the UK or from Canada or from another nation? Because you have to have the attitude, the qualities, the characters, the behaviors of a person in that position. But how do you then bring it out? So that's my experience, and that's how I've ended up as an executive coach.
Okay. Thanks, Tinajo. So she'll be leaving us early because she's got something that she needs to attend to. So I'll ask you one more question. We speak about thriving in different environments. What is your take in terms of how do you view thriving in the context of mental health, in the context of just being the whole person? How would you rate mental health and thriving in terms of is it high up there?
I think it's very much up there, and I think if you are well in your mental health, I think you can thrive, because what happens is when you're sick in your mental health, you have anxiety, you have depression, you have burnout. These factors, they affect your judgment, and so you're not exactly making your decisions objectively. Your judgment is clouded. So in terms of thriving, you would then need to be well in yourself to be able to give to somebody else, to be able to give to somebody who's in your team. Because if you're not well in yourself, then how are you going to support your junior colleagues? So I think mental health is key in terms of, a lot of you are chartered accountants. I'm the only one in healthcare. But just looking at the people who need support, people who are burning out, who are depressed, people who cannot sustain their teams. This just gives you an idea of how much of a big issue mental health is, and people need support. And I think that organizations really need to invest a lot in mental well-being, mindfulness, coaching, for example, and that would just not necessarily help the leader themselves, but help the whole department to move forward.
Wow. Thanks a lot for that. So it's from your perspective, coaching and all that doesn't just hit the bottom line, but you believe that we should actually capitalize it. That's what you're saying. We should capitalize the costs of coaching mental health. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying I'm saying that it's related. Yes, I'm saying that it's all linked. And because what happens with coaching is, I think I'll just explain a little bit. Because with coaching, obviously I'm working with individuals. It's a holistic approach. I'm looking at the things that affect the person. Is it their mental? We sit down, we go through, and a discovery session. We find out what's actually affecting this person, what's preventing them from performing to their maximum capability. So once we sit down and we find out what's wrong or what's affecting this person, then we can talk about it. We can use coaching tools, evidence-based, that will support the person for them to be able to support the rest of their teams.
So in a nutshell, let's go and capitalize the costs. All right, thanks, Tenaja. I'll come to you, Ben. What I would like to hear from you is, as much as we talk about thriving in new environments, for most people that left Zimbabwe, especially in their earlier years of their career, coming back home is actually a new environment, because you can pay 50 zig, the same thing that you pay for 50 zig using EcoCash. If you've got cash, you can pay 40 zig. If it's transport, if it's outside the rank, you then pay 20 zig, etc., etc. And someone is thinking, I would love to go back home, but would I thrive back home? Would I not look like I am now a failure? So you spoke about trying to find a job first, but what if I have gone? What if, I'm still going, or I've already planned to go, and I don't really have a job? What advice? Now you can give advice, Mdarabe. What would you say? How can someone then settle back and into that new environment? How can I be agile? I'm coming from a third world country. There's a shower with pressure, with hot water. Electricity is always there. I can drink from tap water. Tap water is healthy. And then all of a sudden, yeah. Can you take us through?
Okay. I think I'll talk about adapting. I think you need to adapt to your new environment, and there are two things. That is networking and willing. Because things are very tough in Zim. But when you go back, you're like, I'm in Zimbabwe, and I'll put up with what is there. You must have such an attitude that I'll just put up with what is there. For me, it was tough. Coming back with my kids, they didn't know, electricity can go for 24 hours without electricity. Yeah, but ask them now. It's normal. They actually know the timetable. Yeah, and as a parent,
what's the timetable?
Oh, they'll just tell you today.
There's no timetable.
Today is Wednesday.
The timetable is that there is no timetable.
Yeah, so one important thing in Zim is about networking. Okay. So what I put myself into, that's how I started playing golf. And ever since I started playing golf, I know where to get anything. Because in Zim, you need to know where to get anything. Because one thing that is that is in Zim, information doesn't move the way it does in the first world country. Yeah. So the only way, one of the best ways for you to know what's happening is through networking. And when I come even to events like this, I've already made a lot of friends. I think that's one strength that I have. I easily befriend people, and I've used that to my advantage. Even the job that I'm at now, that's how I got it. Even the previous one that I was at, that's how I got it. Yeah. So it's about networking, understanding what's happening, and I think basically that's it.
Thanks. Lukas, you spoke about, the move not always being, positive. There've been some learning points. Can you just share a bit about what you've learned, what you could do differently?
Okay, sure. Yeah, so I think I'll use two examples here. The first example I'll use is, for instance, and I think it's very much connected to what Tendai mentioned earlier about sort of like just doing more to be seen out there. So one of my jobs I did when I left the practice in banking, I think that was at Societe Generale. I was a manager in a very different area. They needed someone with accounting background, but it was very different. It was very business management like. So what happened in this area is, in a typical Zimbabwean style, I was the manager, but I didn't think I was as visible in the area. But it was partly because of the structure, because they wanted people in the job to take ownership and me coming in slowly. But guess what happened? 4 months into my job, one of my team members made an error that costed the bank $1 million. Yeah. So we did a trade on the 22nd of December. People were excited about Christmas shopping. We come back on the 2nd of January. We did the trade the wrong way around. Yeah. So guess what happened? Who is the manager? Yeah. So I think my point here is, and Tendai has touched on this, yes, let's be ourselves, but I think be out there, right? Understand the team dynamics, speak up, yeah. And I mean, don't be afraid to speak up, because at the end of the day, it's you. Anyway, I'm conscious of time. It's a very long story, but just to summarize it, I survived. But I think that was the closest I was to losing my job. And I learned a lot from that experience, because I remember me and my boss going to Paris on Eurostar. We both thought we were going to lose our jobs. When we went there, we came back with our jobs. So, but I learned a lot from that experience. And I think it really sort of, it was the backbone of my success in my career in HSBC, because I went there as a very different person. My other example in terms of moving, I would say, I think it's very important, and I think Tendai touched on it as well, on family. Sometimes we think about our careers, but we don't always think about what does that mean to our families. So for instance, when I moved to Mauritius, I had socialized the idea with my wife, and my daughter was turning 16 then, and we had made a decision that if I get this job, she would stay behind, because she had secured a place in a very good school. Then I got the job, and my boss, who used to be CFO China, was my mentor and sponsor there. Then he had told me about the family dynamics as well. Make sure that your family is happy before you go. Anyway, when I got the offer, I strategically thought, okay, fine, the best time to speak to it with my girls is around dinner. So start of dinner, I tell the girls, oh, by the way, this is the situation, I got the job. Oh my God, then it was tears all over. The one who had agreed to stay is saying, I'm not staying. The younger one was in year 6. Those who here know primary school, year 6 is very crucial for kids. That's the final year, and they do a lot together before. She's saying, I'm in year 6. How can I'm going into year 6. How can I lose this? So it was all over the place. But anyway, my advice, I think, on this is always think about family. I really think my move worked out very well. But I think if I were to make that move today, I'll probably do more or put more insights into the thinking around the family. But sometimes, and I think we mentioned about what is success to us in these roles. Success is not always like career progression. You can do it at the expense of your family. And is it really success? So for me, I think it's absolutely crucial to think about everything around you, including family. And I think that's the advice I'll give to everyone when they're considering moves. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Lukas. I think, going back where I grew up, success is climbing up the corporate ladder and driving a very nice car, living in, the northern suburbs, shopping at Highland Park. If you don't know Highland Park, you haven't been to Zimbabwe. That's success to us. Buying my children a lot of gadgets and whenever they start talking, just shove a gadget to them. That's been success. How we have, how most of us have defined success. Tendai, can you take us through how your experience with family and agility has helped you to thrive?
Thank you. You can hear me? Okay, good. So I will mention maybe 2 or 3 key decisions that I made which involved family. The first one was when I was in New York, and before then, at that time I was not married. The time difference was massive, with Zimbabwe. And when I was coming into the office, the people in Zimbabwe were leaving the office. I had a girlfriend who is now my wife, and I had to wait until midnight to call her because that would be then in the morning in Zimbabwe. And so that was the sort of the family side. And on the professional side, New York was a very large office. You were one face in a sea of faces. I had left Zimbabwe, had qualified and assumed responsibility very quickly. And I found myself doing things that I was doing maybe 3 years, prior. And I remember asking myself, am I actually happy? Am I enjoying this? And everyone was happy for me, including my family. I still have a friend today who tells me that I wasted my visa because I left the US with like 2 years or so on my visa. But I made a decision. I was considering my family. I was considering the interactions that I had. And then the profession-wise, I was thinking about the progression. And I said, I'm going to leave New York. And the partner who was on the project that I was in sat me down and said, Tendai, this is America. You come from Zimbabwe. Why would you leave America? And it caused me to think. But one of the things that I've realized, even when you connect with family, it's important to be true to yourself. Everyone can look at you actually, or people around you can look at you and actually think, you are making it big, you are doing well. And everyone was happy for me. And I had friends in Zimbabwe who were trying to come to the US. And I've got the visa and I'm trying to leave the US. Imagine the conversation. So at that point, this is what I actually did. And I still encourage people to do it. I took 6 months off work. I didn't go to work for 6 months. I left New York, I went to Zimbabwe, and I didn't work for 6 months, asking myself, what do I want to do with myself? What do I really, what's important to me? And then after those 6 months, I didn't go back to New York. I came to the UK. I didn't regret it, I enjoyed it. 2 years later, we were expecting our first baby. And we didn't have family, we had friends. And 4 weeks before our baby was due, my wife was taken into hospital and she never came back home. They kept her, they said the blood pressure is too high, you can't go back, and you need to stay in here. And I was in the hospital every day. And then the baby came. A few weeks before that, I actually had a position internally at Deloitte in corporate finance, which had been a dream for me. Before I qualified, I said, I always want to work in corporate finance. I got the job, and I was told, when do you want to start? And then the baby is coming, and we're having, all the challenges. And then my wife had a C-section. No family. And I thought, this is the moment. I knew how we were going to be working in private equity transaction services. It was a choice. My wife, my family, or the dream that I have had. You know what? I gave it up. I never went to corporate finance. I never went to corporate finance, which was a dream, and I don't regret it because I made a decision for family. And my wife has supported me along the way, but I can be honest with you. If maybe I didn't make the right choice at that point, that could potentially have been maybe the end of my marriage, because my wife, we had challenges after the baby was born because of the whole process. Some of you ladies here will know what it is like postnatal, challenges that can happen. But what am I trying to say? Be honest with yourself, assess your situation. You know what? You can lose a year in career and you can get it back.
Wow.
But if you lose your wife, you may not get them back.
You know what? Tendai, I have, all right. Okay. Tendai, I have not seen the female species this happy in this conference. Yes, I thank you, Tendai, for making us so happy today. But one thing I learned from what Tendai said, 6 months with no salary. So what he said to me is, Nyasha, don't ask them to send you some more shopping money back, from home. What you have spent or what you plan to spend is enough. Leave some for those 6 months. So ladies, as much as Tendai made us happy about what, I think let's not go and overshop. Right? Just in case we'll need those 6 months, they'll need to be funded by something. All right. So it has been interesting. I had more questions for my panel. I would have wanted to throw it back to the floor, but my new council member, I still need a salary when I get back home. Could I standing by the corner there looking at me like, director, time yakwan. All right, so thank you very much, my panelists. I appreciate, thank you very much. You have been a wonderful audience. Thank you.